but we're really interested in building self-sustaining, stress-free, referral-based practices. And the only way you get referral-based practices is you have to have compliance on the front end. And when I say the word complaint, that's really the key cornerstone to patient retention and patient compliance.
Welcome to AMC. I'm Dr. Greg Miller. When's the last time you took a trip down memory lane with your patients? Today, Tom Owen is going to explain how this powerful technique can get you more referrals. You won't want to miss his example scenario for the office. If you find this video to be helpful, please click the like and subscribe buttons. Let's get started.
One of the biggest complaints that we hear from chiropractors on a regular basis is one that you'll probably resonate with, you'll relate with. Really, it doesn't matter what your philosophical background is, what your technique is, or what your model of practice might be. The fact of the matter is patient compliance tends to be a complaint amongst all you and your colleagues. In other words, how long does a patient retained? What's their patient retention? The national average right now, as I'm doing this recording, is actually 6 visits. So if you throw everybody in the bucket, the average patient stays in the number of visits on an average of 6. Now, that causes a lot of problems. That model of practice causes a lot of problems in a lot of practices because 6 visits is going to produce you a couple of things, right? One thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of struggling chiropractors, financially, I should say, because unless you're doing a lot of crazy diagnostics or you're selling a lot of functional programs on the front end very quickly, it's going to be hard to prosper with that because there's not a long enough time to create value in that doctor-patient relationship. Secondly, another problem, a biggest problem I see in it, is that we're not getting sick people well. We're not being known as serious health condition doctors, right? We're being noted as pain relief doctors. And that's really where the rubber meets the road here. When I use the word complaint amongst you and your colleagues, it's funny that the building blocks to retention or patient compliance revolves around the patient's complaint. All right, let me explain that. See, we started this message off talking about one of the main complaints of the average chiropractor out there: patient retention, compliance, because you don't want to spend your weekends having to do with spinal screenings or you're doing health talks and things of that nature. Nothing wrong with those, but we're really interested in building self-sustaining, stress-free, referral-based practices. And the only way you get referral-based practices is you have to have compliance on the front end. And when I say the word complaint, that's really the key cornerstone to patient retention and patient compliance. Let me explain. You never, ever lose by reviewing the patient's complaint. Now, when I say the word complaint, don't go down the line of what you think when you walk in the door. The last thing you should be doing is, on a scale of 1 to 10, Mr. Jones, how are you feeling today? What's your pain level today? Look, the pain level has nothing to do with the complaint. All right, listen to me. If you're focused on the pain level, which, by the way, the pain model is a losing model, all right? And so a 6-visit average nationally tells us the vast majority of the practices out there are revolving around the pain model, and the pain model is a losing model, all right, when it comes to the patient compliance or retention. Why? Because the relationship itself is based on a symptom. And when that relationship, when they're out of pain at around 6 visits, they're gone. When the relationship's based on pain after about 6 visits and they're still in pain, they're gone. So you're going to lose either way utilizing that model. But when I say the word complaint, reviewing the patient's complaint, I do not mean reviewing how they're feeling or their pain level, because that's not the essence. The essence of complaint is really another word that starts with C, which is condition. and learning how to constantly, on a consistent basis, review the condition. So whether or not you're like using x-rays as your diagnostic tool, if it was x-rays, then each and every visit, I'm going to have their particular x-rays up on display, and I'm going to reference, do you remember, Mrs. Jones, when we started, do you remember the condition that we found? Do you remember the disc spacing that we found, the degenerative disc disease that is occurring? There's the spurring. Do you remember, this is your condition. This is your essence of your complaint. I'm not so concerned about the pain that you're in, Mrs. Jones. I'm concerned on this chart over here, your autonomic chart. I'm more concerned about where these nerves go to. They go to your lungs, they go to your heart, they go to your stomach. I'm more concerned about these issues than necessarily the symptom. But again, that's another way of constantly reviewing their complaint or their condition. And more importantly, another word starts with C, is their cause, because the more you reference the cause, what's causing all of this, the better chance that the doctor-patient relationship is going to be extended. All right, giving them an opportunity to experience what chiropractic can produce and should produce. And on that note, we're really looking for ways to build compliance or retain the doctor-patient relationship longer. So as we get past that national average, because we're going to get our attention off of their complaint or pain and off that symptom and get more onto the condition, the actual condition, the underlying condition and the cause of it, it's going to start, now we're going to get into areas that some doctors have never even experienced, which is the 10th visit, the 15th visit, the 20th visit. But regardless, somewhere along the way, teaching them to review the complaint themselves by telling their story is a key component to building the building blocks of referral practicing, because so many doctors want to build that self-sustaining, stress-free, referral-based practice. And teaching them to testify or tell their story is another form of reviewing the complaint. And then as you teach them to testify, and I'll give you an example here in just a second, that it leads more likely to them telling the story more often, and you'll find that referrals will actually come from that factor. So reviewing the complaint or telling their story, teaching to testify could be something like around the 15th visit, 20th visit. Maybe you do a reevaluation, a re-exam, re-x-ray, whatever your process is. But even if it's just they're in the treatment room and around the 15th, 18th visit, you just stop and you kind of do something different that day and just say, Mrs. Jones, do you remember what you were like just over a month ago, 6 weeks ago? Do you remember what it was like when you first came in? Do you remember you were dealing, and you got the x-rays up there? Do you remember we were dealing with this? Do you remember that you weren't sleeping at night? Do you remember that you weren't able to work, but you were working part-time because you couldn't hold, and now you're already back to work? Do you remember? And you review the complaint from where it started to where they are now. They're making progress. And then you say, man, you need to be telling people about this. This is great stuff, not only for you, but your family and your friends deserve to know that as well. And in fact, I'll tell you what, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Stevenson is sitting right outside the door here, waiting to come into the treatment room. And what's funny is he is about 4 or 5 weeks behind you in care, but he came in with some very similar condition, very similar symptoms at the time. Would you mind walking out here and just tell Mr. Stevenson what he has to look forward to? Tell your story. By doing so, you're teaching them to testify, you're reviewing the complaint, the condition, and the cause, and by doing so, you're enhancing the chances of actually one of the key building blocks of referral practicing. So I say all of this for the efforts in this series of teaching what leads to patient compliance, because really what it's about is every time we turn a doorknob in our office, I don't care about your technique, I don't care about your philosophy, your background. If you're a chiropractor practicing chiropractic, then you should be turning every doorknob in your practice. And as you turn it, we should be doing everything moral, legal, and ethical to extend the relationship and convey the message of chiropractic and deliver what chiropractic can give to patients over their entire lifetime, their lifestyle. Everything about their life can change and be transformed, but only if they're around long enough to experience it. And if we're constantly focused on the wrong complaint, which is their pain, it's a losing model, then not only do you lose as a practitioner, you lose providing true health care, you lose from a financial aspect, but the patient loses because they don't ever get to experience what chiropractic can do. And then they're left with only two other options, pills and surgery. And neither one of those are going to be the answer, because chiropractic is the only thing that can deliver the results that we're talking about naturally and restore healthcare and wellness to that patient for their long-term benefit. With that, I hope you got something out of this today. Like I said, this is the start of a series that leads to patient compliance, but everything starts with reviewing the complaint. But get that word pain out of your head, because it's not about their symptoms and how they're feeling. It's about their condition and their underlying cause. Those 3 C's leads to compliance. With that, love you, appreciate you, serve well. God bless.
Join us at our next training weekend, November 10th to the 12th. If you're new to AMC and would like a free guest pass to 3 days of material like this, text us at 904-966-4996. AMC is your guide to becoming respected, effective, and valued in practice.